One heartbeat. That's all the time Devin Brooks has to make a decision that will change his life forever. The sting of Bridget Winter's palm burns across his cheek like fire. The taste of copper fills his mouth where his teeth cut into flesh. Around him, the café goes silent, that eerie, suspended quiet before chaos erupts. In this frozen moment, 27 years of his father's warnings flash through Devin's mind. The world gives them room to be human, to make mistakes, to lose their temper. It doesn't give us that same room. He sees Bridget's hand rising again for a second strike, her face contorted with a hatred he's done nothing to deserve. His body reacts before his mind can fully process the consequences. His arm lifts, blocks her assault, pushes her away. Her eyes widen, not with fear, but with something far more dangerous, opportunity. The look chills him more than the slap ever could. It's the look of someone who knows exactly what happens to black men accused of putting their hands on white women. "Help!" she screams, her voice piercing the silence. "He's attacking me." As if choreographed, phones rise around the cafe, cameras pointed at him. Not at her. At him. Recording only this moment, not what led to it. "But she hit me first," Devin says, his calm voice drowned by her continued screams. Nobody seems to hear him. Nobody wants to. Through the cafe window, blue and red lights already flash against the glass. The system designed to protect people like Bridget from people like him moves with terrifying efficiency. In his mind, Devin can already see the headlines, the edited videos, the assumptions. His life, his career, his future, all hanging in the balance because a woman couldn't tolerate his existence in her space. And all because of one heartbeat's decision to defend himself. Before we continue Devin's story, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments section below. It's incredible to see how our community spans across the globe, united by these powerful stories of justice and resilience. And if this opening has already pulled you in, hit that subscribe button now. These are the stories that need to be told, and with your support, we can bring more of them to light. Now, let's dive deeper into how Devin's ordinary day turned into a nightmare. 3 hours earlier, sunlight streams through the tall windows of Palmer & Associates, one of the city's most prestigious architectural firms. Devin Brooks stands before a conference table, his confident voice carrying across the room as he presents his latest design. At 32, he's become the firm's rising star, respected, admired, and known for infusing his work with elements that honor the history of Black architecture while pushing boundaries into the future. The community center incorporates structural elements that echo the resilience of the neighborhood it serves, Devin explains, gesturing to the 3D rendering. "I've designed it to be not just a building, but a statement, a physical manifestation of growth from struggle." The clients nod appreciatively. This is Devin in his element, articulate, passionate, brilliantly creative. His boss, Richard Palmer, beams with pride. Hiring Devin 4 years ago had proven to be one of his best decisions. Not only had Devin brought fresh perspectives to the firm, but his designs had won them contracts they might never have secured otherwise. After the meeting, Devin's colleague and closest friend, Priya Sharma, bumps his shoulder playfully as they walk back to their desks. "Another home run," she says, dark eyes sparkling with admiration. They practically signed the contract on the spot. Devin's smile is humble but pleased. "Let's not count chickens yet, but I think we're close." Their friendship had formed instantly when Priya joined the firm 2 years ago, two outsiders in different ways, understanding what it meant to navigate spaces not designed for them. Where Devin is methodical and measured, Priya is outspoken and fiery, a balance that served them well both professionally and personally. Back at his desk, Devin checks his phone to find a voice message from Aunt Loretta, the woman who raised him after his parents' fatal car accident when he was just 11. Her voice, rich and warm like honey, fills his ear. "Baby, don't forget dinner on Sunday. I'm making your daddy's gumbo recipe, and Pastor Willis has been asking about you. Love you to pieces." The thought of his aunt's cooking brings a wider smile to Devin's face. Loretta Brooks had been his rock, his moral compass, the woman who'd taught him to hold his head high while navigating a world determined to make him lower it. A retired schoolteacher, she'd filled their modest home with books, music, and unwavering expectations of excellence. "They may judge you before they know you," she'd often say. "But once they do know you, leave them no room for their prejudice. Devin's phone buzzes with an email from a client. He checks his watch, 2:30 p.m. The presentation had gone longer than expected, and he hasn't eaten since breakfast. There's a cafe around the corner, Fresh Grounds, where he sometimes goes to work when the office feels too confining. He could grab lunch there, respond to the client, and still make it back for his 4 p.m. meeting. Heading to Fresh Grounds for a late lunch and to work on the West Side proposal, he tells Priya, "Text if you need anything. Bring me back one of those chocolate croissants," she calls after him. "I've got back-to-back meetings until 5. The spring air feels good against Devin's face as he walks the 2 blocks to the cafe. Birds chirp from newly budding trees, and the city hums with afternoon energy. Devin breathes deeply, savoring this moment of peace, unaware that in less than an hour, his life will be upended by a woman he's never met and a prejudice as old as the country itself. Fresh Grounds Cafe sits on a corner, its large windows letting in abundant natural light. Inside, the scent of coffee and baked goods wraps around patrons like a comfortable embrace. The space has a modern industrial aesthetic, exposed brick, metal fixtures, and polished concrete floors, but manages to feel warm rather than sterile. It's busy but not crowded, the kind of place where people come to linger over laptops and conversations. Devin orders a turkey sandwich and black coffee, then finds a small table near the back wall. He settles in, opens his laptop, and begins responding to emails. The ambient buzz of the cafe fades into the background as he loses himself in work, occasionally taking bites of his sandwich or sips of coffee. He doesn't notice Bridget Winters until she sits at the table adjacent to his. Mid-40s, expensively dressed, with carefully highlighted blonde hair and an air of entitlement that seems to demand space beyond what her physical body occupies. She arranges herself with dramatic sighs and movements that suggest others should be aware of her presence. Devin pays her no mind, focused on the message he's crafting to a client about modifications to their project. It's only when he reaches for his coffee cup and accidentally nudges his table that he becomes aware of her. The slight movement shifts his table, which is closer to hers than he realized. His water glass trembles, but doesn't spill. Bridget clears her throat loudly. "Excuse me, but you need to be more careful." Devin glances up, momentarily confused. "I'm sorry. Your table. You're bumping into mine." Her tone is accusatory, as though he'd done it deliberately. "Oh, I apologize," Devin says politely, shifting his chair to ensure more distance between their tables. "Didn't mean to disturb you." He returns to his work, but he can feel her eyes on him. That familiar sensation of being watched, assessed, judged. It's a feeling he knows well, one that raises the hairs on the back of his neck no matter how many degrees he's earned or suits he's purchased. A few minutes pass. Devin continues working, but his focus is fractured now. He's become hyper-aware of his movements, his space, his presence, a self-consciousness forced upon him by unwanted attention. "Could you type more quietly?" Bridget's voice cuts through his thoughts. "Some of us are trying to enjoy a peaceful afternoon." Devin looks up again, meeting her eyes directly for the first time. There's something cold there, something looking for confrontation. He recognizes it instantly, the gaze of someone who has already decided who and what he is. "I'm just working," he says calmly. "I don't think my typing is particularly loud." "Well, it is," she insists, louder now, drawing attention from nearby tables. "And you're taking up too much space. Your kind always does." The cafe grows quieter. The phrase, "your kind," hangs in the air like poison gas. Devin feels a familiar heat rise in his chest. Not just anger, but that unique blend of fury, weariness, and resignation that comes with encounters like this. He's had practice, though. Years of it. "I'm just trying to finish my work," he says, keeping his voice even. "I'll be done soon." "I bet you will," she sneers. Probably stealing someone's design ideas anyway. A barista approaches, looking uncomfortable. "Is everything okay over here?" Before Devin can respond, Bridget speaks. "No, everything is not okay. This man is harassing me. He keeps bumping my table and making threatening movements." "What?" Devin's composure cracks slightly. "That's completely untrue. I accidentally nudged the table once and apologized." The barista glances between them, uncertain. Other patrons are watching now, some with phones partially raised, waiting to capture whatever might happen next. "Ma'am, sir," Please keep it down or take the conversation outside. The barista says finally, clearly wanting to avoid involvement. I have every right to be here, Bridget says, voice rising. I'm a paying customer being intimidated by this thug. The word lands like a physical blow. Devin, in his tailored suit with his advanced degree and professional success, reduced to a stereotype in an instant. I'm not going to engage with this, Devin says, beginning to pack up his laptop. He won't give her the satisfaction of an argument. He knows better. Bridget stands suddenly. Don't you dare ignore me when I'm speaking to you. And then it happens, quick as a snake strike. Her hand flies across the small space between them, palm connecting with Devin's cheek in a sharp slap that echoes through the now silent cafe. The sting spreads across his face as shock registers in his brain. In pure instinct, as she raises her hand for a second strike, Devin's arm comes up defensively. He blocks her hand and pushes it away from his face, his palm making contact with her shoulder, applying just enough force to create distance between them. Bridget stumbles backward, more from surprise than the force of his push. For a split second, there's genuine shock on her face. Shock that he would dare defend himself. Then, as if a switch flips, her expression transforms into one of terror and victimhood. Help, she screams, falling back into her chair dramatically. He attacked me. Someone call the police. The cafe erupts in chaos. Some patrons rush to Bridget's side, while others back away, phones recording everything. A few look at Devin with confusion or suspicion, having seen enough to know something isn't right with her version of events, but not brave enough to speak up. I didn't. She hit me first, Devin says, but his protests are drowned out by Bridget's continued screams and the commotion around them. The barista is on the phone now, presumably with police. Devin feels his heart rate spike. He knows how this looks, how it will be perceived. A large black man, a white woman claiming assault. He's seen this story play out before, knows its familiar, terrible rhythms. Stay where you are, the barista tells him, hand over the phone receiver. Police are on their way. Devin stands perfectly still, hands visible at his sides. Another lesson learned young. Don't run. Don't make sudden movements. Don't give them any reason. Through the cafe window, he sees the flash of police lights. 3 minutes, maybe 4 since the incident. Record response time. As officers enter the cafe, Bridget's sobs grow louder, more performative. He attacked me, she wails. I was just sitting here, and he became aggressive for no reason. The officers approach, hands near their weapons. One speaks into his radio, requesting backup. Devin feels the situation spiraling beyond his control. Sir, step outside with us, one officer commands. Devin complies without protest, walking slowly toward the door, feeling all eyes on him. As he reaches the sidewalk, he sees more patrol cars pulling up. She hit me first, he explains again. I only pushed her hand away when she tried to hit me a second time. But the officers aren't listening. They've already decided their version of events. As more police arrive, Devin finds himself surrounded in the plaza outside the cafe, right back where our story began. Tasting blood from his split lip, blue and red lights flashing across his skin, and the cold certainty that in this moment, the truth matters less than the color of his skin. His father's words echo once more in his mind. The world sees you as guilty until proven innocent, and sometimes, not even then. The interrogation room at the downtown precinct feels deliberately designed to break the human spirit. Harsh fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting sickly shadows across the metal table where Devin sits, still in handcuffs. The room smells of old coffee and something more insidious, fear, perhaps absorbed into the very walls from countless others who've sat exactly where he sits now. 2 hours have passed since his arrest. 2 hours of watching officers treat Bridget Winters with gentle care, offering her water, tissues, sympathetic nods, while he was processed like a dangerous criminal. The contrast wasn't lost on Devin. Her tears yielded comfort. His blood warranted suspicion. Detective Walsh enters the room, middle-aged with a weathered face and eyes that have mastered the art of revealing nothing. He places a folder on the table and sits across from Devin. Mr. Brooks, he begins, voice flat as pavement. You're facing charges of assault and battery. The victim has given her statement. Multiple witnesses saw you push Ms. Winters forcefully enough to knock her down. That's not what happened, Devin says, struggling to keep his voice steady. She slapped me first. Look at my face. The dried blood on his lip has crusted over, his cheek still bearing the faint outline of Bridget's handprint. I only raised my arm to block her second attempt. I never struck her. Detective Walsh's expression doesn't change. Ms. Winters says you became aggressive when she asked you to stop disturbing her. She says you made threatening movements, invaded her personal space, and then attacked her when she tried to defend herself. That's a lie, Devin says, the words coming out sharper than intended. He takes a deep breath, remembering his rights. I want a lawyer. That's your right. Walsh acknowledges with a shrug that seems to say Devin has just confirmed his guilt. But cooperating now could make things easier for you. Devin says nothing more, his mind racing through potential consequences. His job, his reputation, his future, all hanging in the balance because a woman couldn't tolerate his existence in her space. Outside the interrogation room, the machinery of judgment is already in motion. On local news and across social media, the story spreads like wildfire. Black man attacks woman in upscale café. Someone from the cafe had uploaded a 15-second clip showing only the moment Devin's hand connected with Bridget's shoulder, carefully edited to exclude her initial assault. The video has already been viewed 80,000 times. 6 hours later, Devin's lawyer, a public defender named Cassandra Taylor with tired eyes and a determined set to her jaw, secures his release on bail. As they exit the police station, reporters thrust microphones toward his face, shouting questions that assume his guilt. Camera flashes pop like lightning. Devin keeps his head down, following his lawyer's instructions to say nothing. The media's already decided this case, Cassandra tells him once they're safely in her car. But don't worry. We'll fight this. The cafe must have security cameras. We'll subpoena the footage. But they both know the damage is already done. In the court of public opinion, Devin has already been tried and convicted. The narrative has been established. Aggressive black man, innocent white woman. A story as old as America itself. The next morning, Devin receives a call from Richard Palmer. His boss's voice is tight, uncomfortable. Devin, I've seen the news. The board feels it would be best if you take a leave of absence until this situation is resolved. Paid leave, of course, but I understand. Devin interrupts, too tired to argue. He'd expected this. Companies like Palmer and Associates care about their image above all else. A black employee accused of assaulting a white woman is a public relations nightmare they can't afford. For what it's worth, Richard adds, his tone softening slightly. I don't believe what they're saying about you. But my hands are tied here. After hanging up, Devin sits motionless on his couch, staring at nothing. His phone pings constantly with notifications. Colleagues expressing shock, acquaintances asking for his side, strangers sending threats or slurs. He turns it off, unable to bear the weight of others' perceptions. The heavy silence is broken by a sharp knock at his door. He opens it to find Priya, holding a bag of groceries and wearing an expression that's equal parts fury and determination. I brought food, she announces, pushing past him into the apartment. And I'm not taking no for an answer. For the first time since the incident, Devin feels something loosen in his chest. He watches as Priya bustles around his kitchen, pulling out ingredients, talking about everything except what happened, office gossip, her sister's new baby, a documentary she watched last night. Richard called me before he called you, she says finally, placing a plate of eggs and toast in front of him. Wanted to prepare me. I told him he was making a mistake. She sits across from him, her dark eyes fierce with loyalty. This will blow over, Dev. The truth will come out. Will it, though? Devin asks, pushing the food around his plate. You know how these things go? No one wants to hear that the nice-looking white lady started it. Priya reaches across the table, squeezing his hand. I've already been doing some digging on this Bridget Winters. She's not as squeaky clean as she wants people to believe. Hope flickers in Devin's eyes, but it's dim, tempered by a lifetime of watching justice slip through fingers that look like his. The memory comes to him unbidden that night as he lies awake, staring at his ceiling. He's 10 years old, sitting on the front porch of their modest home in Oakwood Heights. His father, Lawrence Brooks, polishes his shoes for work the next day, a ritual Devin has watched hundreds of times. Why do you always polish your shoes at night, Dad? young Devin asks, genuinely curious. Lawrence looks up, a smile warming his face. Because how the world sees you matters, son. Especially for us. He holds up the gleaming shoe. When I walk into that office tomorrow, I'll be the only black manager there. Some folks are just waiting for me to slip up, to confirm what they already believe about men who look like me. His father sets the shoe down, turns fully to Devin. It's not fair. It's not right. But it's the world we live in. I polish my shoes and press my shirts and speak a certain way not because I'm ashamed of who I am, but because I have to work twice as hard for half the respect. Lawrence's eyes grow serious. There's another thing you need to understand, son. The rules aren't the same for us. If a white man gets angry, he's passionate. If I get angry, I'm dangerous. If a white child makes a mistake, he's being a kid. If you make that same mistake. His voice trails off, the implications clear even to 10-year-old Devin. Is that why you always tell me to stay calm when those boys at school say mean things? Devin asks. Lawrence nods, eyes sad but resolute. The world gives them room to be human, to make mistakes, to lose their temper. It doesn't give us that same room. Remember that, Devin. When you feel that anger rise, and you will, justifiably, remember that the world sees you as guilty until proven innocent. And sometimes, not even then. The memory shifts, blurs into another from just a year later. Sitting beside his father's hospital bed after the car accident that would claim both his parents' lives 3 days later. Lawrence, despite his pain, making his son promise to remember what he'd taught him. About dignity. About restraint. About survival in a world determined to misinterpret his every move. Devin blinks back to the present, tears wetting his pillow. I remember, Dad, he whispers to the empty room. I stayed calm. I didn't fight back. And it didn't matter. Another memory surfaces. Devin at 16, watching news coverage of a case eerily similar to his current situation. A black teenager accused of assaulting a white woman who claimed he'd threatened her in a department store. Aunt Loretta sitting beside him, shaking her head at the television. This country has a long memory for what it wants to believe about our boys, she'd said, voice heavy with history's weight. During Reconstruction, after slavery ended, they lynched our men for looking at white women. Said they were protecting their women's virtue. Truth is, they were protecting their power. She'd turned to Devin then, eyes fierce with protective love. The story hasn't changed much. Just the methods. Now they use handcuffs instead of rope, courtrooms instead of trees. But the script, black man as threat, white woman as innocent, that script is old as dirt. Devin carries these lessons with him now, feeling their weight as he navigates the aftermath of Bridget Winter's assault. The historical parallels aren't lost on him. How generations of black men before him have faced similar charges based on similar lies. How the presumption of his guilt is rooted in centuries of carefully constructed fear. Days bleed into weeks. Devin's apartment becomes both sanctuary and prison. He stops going to his favorite coffee shops, to the gym, to the park where he used to sketch building designs. Public spaces no longer feel safe. Too many stares, too many whispers, too many phones that might be recording him. His isolation deepens. Former colleagues stop calling. A neighbor crosses the hall to avoid sharing the elevator with him. His social media accounts fill with hateful messages from strangers who've seen the edited video and believe they know everything about him from those 15 seconds. Only Priya and Aunt Loretta remain steadfast. Priya visits almost daily, bringing food and updates from the office. She's been researching Bridget Winters, compiling information that might help his case. She's done this before. Priya tells him one evening, excitement edging her voice as she spreads papers across his coffee table. 3 years ago, she accused a Hispanic server of assault when he accidentally spilled water on her dress. Charges were dropped, but the man lost his job. And 5 years before that, she called security on a black student at the university library, claiming he was stalking her when he was actually just trying to get to a book on the shelf behind where she was sitting. Devin absorbs this information, feeling a complex mix of validation and despair. Will any of this be admissible in court? Priya's enthusiasm dims slightly. Your lawyer is working on it. Pattern of behavior could be relevant, but judges can be reluctant to allow past incidents. Every Sunday, Devin drives to Aunt Loretta's for dinner, the one outing he refuses to surrender. Her small house smells of spices and history, walls lined with family photos that tell the story of resilience across generations. "How you holding up, baby?" she asks, serving him a second helping of gumbo. "I'm tired, Auntie," Devin admits, the weight of it all pressing down on him. "So damn tired of being seen as guilty no matter what I do." Loretta sits beside him, taking his much larger hand in her weathered one. "I know, but we don't have the luxury of surrender. Your daddy didn't, his daddy didn't, and you don't either." She points to a faded photograph on the wall, Devin's great-grandfather standing proudly in his World War I uniform. That man came back from fighting for this country to find he still couldn't vote in it. But he kept pushing forward, kept demanding dignity. "That's in your blood." Her words sustain him, but as weeks pass and his court date approaches, Devin feels his resolve weakening. When Cassandra Taylor, his attorney, presents him with a potential plea deal, reduced charges, community service, no jail time, the temptation to accept it, to end this nightmare, nearly overwhelms him. Taking the deal would mean admitting guilt, Cassandra explains carefully. "It would be on your record, but it might be the safest option. Juries are unpredictable, Devin, especially with cases like this." "Cases where it's my word against a white woman's, you mean," Devin says flatly. Cassandra doesn't deny it. They both know the statistics, the precedents, the history that stands against him. That night marks Devin's lowest point. He stands at his apartment window, looking out at the city lights, wondering if his father was wrong. Maybe the polish on your shoes doesn't matter. Maybe the pressed shirts and careful words and advanced degrees don't change how the world sees you. Maybe there is no amount of excellence that can overcome the presumption of your criminality. For the first time since his parents' funeral, Devin Brooks breaks down completely, sobs racking his body as he slides to the floor. The weight of restraint, of always being careful, always being aware, always being less than his full self in public spaces, crushes down on him until he can barely breathe. His phone rings, cutting through his despair. It's Priya, her voice vibrating with barely contained excitement. "Devin, listen to me. We got it." The cafe manager finally responded to the subpoena. "They have the security footage from that day, from multiple angles. It shows everything. Bridget harassing you, slapping you first, you only defending yourself. Everything." Hope, fragile but persistent, begins to bloom in Devin's chest. Maybe, just maybe, the truth will matter after all. This story hits close to home for so many of us, doesn't it? The daily calculations of how to exist in spaces where your presence is seen as a threat. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you experienced or witnessed similar double standards? And if you're finding value in these stories of justice and resilience, please hit that subscribe button. We need your support to keep amplifying these crucial narratives. Now, let's return to Devin's story as the truth finally begins to emerge. The Jefferson County Courthouse stands as a monument to justice, at least in theory. Its imposing stone facade and grand columns suggest impartiality, permanence, authority. But as Devin Brooks climbs the steps toward its entrance, he knows that within those walls, justice often depends on who's asking for it. Today's hearing will determine whether his case goes to trial. Cassandra Taylor walks beside him, briefcase clutched tight, her usual tired expression replaced with cautious optimism. The security footage from Fresh Grounds arrived yesterday, clear, unambiguous evidence that might finally shift the narrative. "Remember," she tells him quietly as they approach the security checkpoint, "no matter what Bridget or her lawyer says, stay calm. Let the video speak for itself." Devin nods, his father's lessons echoing in his mind. Inside the courtroom, he feels all eyes turn to him as he walks down the center aisle. The room is surprisingly full, not just with the usual court personnel, but with journalists and curious onlookers drawn by the media attention the case has received. Bridget Winters sits at the plaintiff's table, dressed conservatively in a high-necked blouse, her hair pulled back in a modest bun. Gone is the entitled woman from the cafe, replaced by this carefully crafted image of vulnerability. When she glances at Devin, there's a flicker of something in her eyes. Not fear, as she pretends for others, but calculation. Judge Eleanor Harmon enters, and the proceedings begin. The prosecutor, a young man with sharp features and sharper ambition, presents the state's case first. He paints Devin as aggressive, unpredictable, threatening, every racist stereotype condensed into his practiced delivery. Bridget takes the stand, her performance refined to perfection as she describes feeling terrified by Devin's unprovoked attack. "I simply asked him to be more mindful of his space," she says, voice quavering just enough to suggest trauma. "He became instantly aggressive. I raised my hand only to protect myself when he lunged at me." The prosecutor displays the viral 15-second clip, freeze-framing the moment Devin's hand connects with Bridget's shoulder. Out of context, isolated from what preceded it, the image damns him in the eyes of anyone predisposed to see threat in his black skin. When Cassandra rises for cross-examination, her demeanor shifts from the cautious lawyer Devin has known to something fiercer, more determined. "Ms. Winters," she begins, "are you aware that Fresh Grounds Cafe has security cameras covering every angle of their establishment?" Something flickers across Bridget's face, a momentary crack in her composed facade. I don't know anything about their security system." "Your Honor," Cassandra says, turning to the judge, "we've obtained the complete security footage from the cafe, which shows the entire interaction between my client and Ms. Winters. We'd like to enter it as evidence and play it for the court." The prosecutor objects immediately, claiming they haven't had time to review this new evidence. Judge Harmon overrules him after Cassandra explains the footage was only released yesterday in response to their subpoena. The courtroom lights dim slightly as the footage begins to play on a large monitor. Unlike the shaky, edited cell phone clip that went viral, this footage is clear, comprehensive, and damning, not for Devin, but for Bridget. The silent video shows everything in sequence: Devin working quietly at his table, Bridget's arrival and immediate irritation at his presence, her increasingly aggressive body language, her verbal assault, evident even without audio from the way she leans into his space, pointing her finger in his face. Then, unmistakably, her hand striking Devin's cheek in a forceful slap. His defensive reaction, arm raised to block her second attempt, the minimal contact he makes to create distance. Perhaps most revealing is what happens next: Bridget's split-second transition from aggressor to victim, her deliberate fall into her chair, the immediate tears that appear on command. The calculated performance begins the moment she realizes others are watching. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. Judge Harmon calls for order, her expression grave as she studies the footage that directly contradicts Bridget's sworn testimony. "Your Honor," Cassandra continues, "we have also obtained records of 2 previous incidents involving Ms. Winters making similar false accusations against people of color." She presents documents detailing Bridget's history, the Hispanic server, the black student, establishing a pattern of racially motivated false reports. Bridget's lawyer objects vehemently, but the damage is done. The narrative has shifted. In the gallery, reporters are already typing frantically on phones and laptops. This new development too juicy to ignore. Then comes the unexpected voice, a woman rising from the back of the courtroom. "Your Honor, I'd like to speak," she says. "It's the barista from Fresh Grounds, the same one who called the police that day. I was there. I saw everything. I've been feeling terrible about not speaking up sooner, but I was afraid of losing my job if I contradicted the manager." Judge Harmon, after a moment's consideration, allows her to approach. Once sworn in, the young woman, Claire Donovan, according to the court record, speaks clearly into the microphone. Ms. Winters was the aggressor. She targeted Mr. Brooks from the moment she saw him. She made racist comments, said something about his kind taking up too much space. She called him a thug, and she definitely hit him first. I saw the blood on his lip afterward. Claire's testimony, combined with the security footage and records of prior incidents, creates a tidal wave that even the prosecutor cannot withstand. By the end of the hearing, Judge Harmon dismisses all charges against Devin and refers Bridget Winters to the district attorney's office for potential charges of filing a false report and perjury. As they exit the courthouse, Devin feels a complex mixture of emotions: relief, vindication, but also a lingering bitterness that this process was necessary at all, that his innocence required such extraordinary evidence, that a white woman's word initially outweighed his lived reality. The headlines the next day tell a new story: false accusation exposed in cafe assault case, and woman faces charges after security footage reveals truth. Social media buzzes with the unedited video, with commenters expressing outrage at how quickly they'd judged Devin based on the edited clip. But vindication comes with its own weight. The damage to Devin's reputation cannot be so easily undone. The weeks of anxiety, isolation, and public humiliation have left marks deeper than Bridget's slap. Some who were quick to condemn him are equally quick to forget their role in his suffering. Richard Palmer calls with congratulations and an invitation to return to work immediately. The board is thrilled this misunderstanding has been cleared up, he says, as if Devin's ordeal had been a minor clerical error rather than a systematic failure of justice. We never doubted you, of course. Devin accepts the offer to return, but something has changed in him. The experience has stripped away any illusion that his education, his professionalism, or his achievements provide immunity against the presumption of his criminality. Priya celebrates with him, bringing champagne to his apartment the evening after the hearing. To justice, she toasts, glasses clinking. To evidence, Devin corrects her gently. Without that footage, we wouldn't be celebrating. Bridget Winter's consequences prove minimal, as he'd expected. The charges against her are reduced to a misdemeanor with a small fine and community service. No jail time. No lasting record. The system that rushed to believe her accusation shows remarkable leniency toward her deception. She'll do it again, Priya says when they learn of Bridget's plea deal. People like that always do. Probably, Devin agrees. But next time, maybe someone will remember this case. Maybe they'll question her story first. 6 months later, Devin stands before a different audience. A community center in Oakwood Heights, the neighborhood where he grew up. The room is filled with young black men and women, their faces attentive as he speaks. What happened to me isn't rare, he tells them. What's rare is that I had evidence to prove my innocence, that I had resources for a good lawyer, that I had a support system that never doubted me. After his case was dismissed, Devin channeled his experience into creating the Equal Justice Initiative, a foundation dedicated to helping victims of racial profiling and false accusations. Using his architectural skills, he designed this very building, a space for legal aid, community organizing, and education about rights during police encounters. The burden shouldn't be on us to prove our innocence, he continues. But until the system changes, we need to protect ourselves however we can. Know your rights, document everything, and support each other, because sometimes that support is all that keeps us going. In the audience, Aunt Loretta beams with pride. Beside her sits Priya, who took a leave from Palmer and Associates to help Devin launch the initiative. And scattered throughout the room are other faces. Claire Donovan, the barista who finally spoke up. Cassandra Taylor, now offering pro bono services through the foundation. Community members who see in Devin's story echoes of their own. After the presentation, as people gather around tables with informational materials, Devin finds a moment of quiet near the windows. He looks out at the neighborhood, at children playing on the sidewalk, at elders chatting on porches, at the everyday beauty of black life continuing despite the systems designed to constrict it. He thinks of his father polishing shoes at night, preparing his son for a world that would judge him harshly, of his aunt teaching him about history so he'd understand the present, of all those who came before him, navigating the same treacherous waters with fewer resources and protections than he has. I remembered what you taught me, Dad, he whispers. And this time it was enough. The truth didn't set Devin free, evidence did. Justice wasn't given freely. It had to be fought for, documented, proven beyond any doubt. But in that fight, Devin found purpose. In that injustice, he found the path forward. Outside the community center, a fresh mural spans the building's side wall. Faces of historical figures who fought for justice alongside ordinary people standing tall in their truth. At the bottom, a quote reads, "The world may see us as guilty until proven innocent, but we see ourselves as inheritors of dignity that cannot be taken away." Devin's story is one of thousands. His victory, while personal, connects to a larger struggle for recognition, for the right to defend oneself, for the presumption of innocence that should be everyone's birthright. In his individual redemption lies the seed of collective justice, not yet fully realized, but growing stronger with each truth that refuses to be silenced. Devin's story reminds us how quickly justice can be denied when prejudice overrides truth. But it also shows the power of resilience and community in fighting back against false narratives. What part of this story resonated most with you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe these stories need to be told, stories that challenge us to look deeper than our first assumptions. Please subscribe to our channel and share this video. Together, we can amplify voices that might otherwise be silenced and build a community dedicated to true justice and understanding. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.